Heroes of the City of Man, pages 169 to 178. Book 5 begins where Book 1 began, with the scene on Olympus. Divine initiative has spurred Telemachus to take more active control of his destiny, and now Zeus determines that the exile must return, bearing bronze and hoards of gold and robes, more plunder than he could ever have won from Troy. The hero, who has been calypsoed, hidden on the island of Ogygia, must return, displaying the full glory of a hero. These parallels of books 1 and 5 suggest further connections between the initial situation of Odysseus and the situation in Ithaca, which are developed in the following books. Calypso is the first of the fantastic creatures we meet, and therefore is representative of all. Several features of the situation are noteworthy. Hermes finds her in a cave, a setting of such Edenic beauty and fertility that even Hermes' heart is entranced with pleasure as he stands spellbound. The enchantment of the setting is important for understanding its significance. As Odysseus will tell the Phaeacians later, he has been traveling through the land of myths and legends. By sending Hermes to release him, Zeus is not only helping to transfer Odysseus geographically from one place to another, he is calling him back from the world of unreal myths to the real world of Ithaca. Since his heroic deeds at Troy, Odysseus has been in no man's land, and that is no place for a hero. Though the epic contrasts Ithaca with the mythical world of Odysseus' journeys, it also brings out parallels between them, so that the two worlds illuminate and mirror each other. When Hermes arrives, Calypso is inside her cave, singing and weaving. In the context of the Odyssey, Calypso's weaving associates her with Penelope. Just as Penelope has used weaving to delay what she feels is an inevitable decision, so Calypso weaves, hoping she will never have to part with Odysseus, hoping she is weaving his fate. Unlike the suitors, however, Odysseus is a reluctant guest, not a suitor at all. Light may be directed in the other direction as well. If Calypso is a nymph version of Penelope, Penelope has something of the enchantress about her, for she has woven a spell over the suitors. The parallel of Calypso and Penelope also highlights an important feature of the poem's presentation of women. Odysseus encounters several alluring women in the course of his travels, not only Calypso, but Circe and Nausicaa. And some of his other adventures also involve feminine, though not overtly sexual, threats, the sirens being the chief example. Sexual temptation is one of the distractions he must overcome if he is to reach Ithaca and deliver his wife, house, and kingdom. Two of these women have magical powers, Calypso and Circe. For Circe turns Odysseus' crew into pigs. Several of the women in this poem are more intelligent than most of the men, but this intelligence is present as another species of witchcraft, another weapon by which women seek to ensnare men and keep them from heroic deeds. However sympathetic his portrayals of women, Homer, like Hesiod, sees women as sources of temptation and a distraction from the proper work of men. Pleasurable to be sure, women can also be dangerous, cunning, too curious, and always potential Pandoras. They are Calypsos, who weave their designs to keep men hidden indoors, at home, and in bed. From a Christian perspective, Odysseus' resistance to sexual temptation leaves a great deal to be desired. The poem makes clear that he is sleeping with Calypso during the 7 years of his captivity on her island. Even when he refuses to stay with her and professes his undying wish to return home, withdrawing into the cavern's deep recesses, long in each other's arms, they lost themselves in love. The poets protest that he had no choice, unwilling lover alongside lover all too willing. Sounds false. His earlier statement that Odysseus had grown bored with Calypso, the nymph no longer pleased, is probably more accurate, but boredom does not prevent him from taking his pleasure with her. When he encounters Circe and demands that she release his crew from the spell, she is impressed with him and invites him to bed. Suspicious, he responds, "Mount your bed? Not for all the world." But his refusal is only partial. "Not until you consent to swear, goddess, a binding oath you'll never plot some new intrigue to harm me." After she has sworn, then, at last, I mounted Circe's gorgeous bed. As long as it's safe sex. Sexual purity in the Christian sense, brilliantly portrayed in Book 3 of Edmund Spenser's Fairy Queen, simply is not heroic virtue. Sexual control is. In the scene with Circe, it is important that Odysseus refuses to mount her bed until he has assurances that she will release his men from the spell. Later, he will tell Phaeacians how he was tied to the ship's mast so that he would not succumb to the alluring song of the sirens. His cunning helps him gain control of sexually charged situations, keeps him from being turned into a beast by Circe, and protects him from joining the rotting corpses in the field of the sirens. Sexual control is an aspect of Odysseus's metis. Calypso's temptation is not, however, mainly sexual. Reminding Odysseus what pains are fated to fill your cup before you reach the shore, she urges him to preside in our house with me and be immortal. Odysseus refuses. Within the heroic world of the Odyssey, this offer has several layers of significance. Immortality is what all heroes pursue. They want their deeds remembered and celebrated forever. Yet Calypso offers a very unheroic immortality, not one at the cost of suffering, hardship, and battle, but an immortality that comes simply as a gift, and it would be a very inactive sort of immortality. It is not eternal life so much as eternal stagnation. With Calypso, Odysseus's life would consist of languid days followed by nights of love. But Odysseus has already grown weary of the nymph and her life. In rejecting her offer, he is rejecting one kind of immortality for another. He is embracing his heroic destiny with all its pain and hardships. He will not seek to escape his name, son of pain.
Calypso also represents the temptation to forget who he is and the kind of deeds that are expected of such a man. The real temptation for the hero is to renounce his heroic calling. In this way, we can see that Odysseus' choice is very much like that of Achilles in the Iliad. A long life of ease in the hiddenness of Calypso's cave versus a shorter life, a strenuous exertion followed by public and eternal glory. Like Achilles, heroic Odysseus can really only choose the latter. In the end, as Seth Keen points out, Calypso's offer represents a kind of death for Odysseus. A hidden hero, one with no name and no deeds, is as good as dead. Immortality without heroic exertion is no life. Here, Homer's Odysseus and Tennyson's Ulysses are one, for neither accepts the idea that to breathe is life. Odysseus is conscious that he is choosing a mortal, and therefore inferior life in a mortal wife. Calypso cannot understand. Much as you long to see your wife, the one you pine for all your days, and yet I just might claim to be nothing less than she, neither in face nor figure. Hardly right, is it, for mortal woman to rival immortal goddess? Odysseus agrees. All that you say is true, how well I know. Look at my wife Penelope. She falls far short of you, your beauty, stature. She is mortal after all, and you never age or die. Nevertheless, I long, I pine all my days, to travel home and see the day of my return. Odysseus chooses to be human rather than to seek to be a god. Penelope is the main attraction of his return, but she is not the only one. The first time we see Odysseus, he is sitting on the headlong looking over the sea, weeping, his eyes never dry, his sweet life flowing away with the tears he wept for his spoiled journey home. He also longs for the day of my return, the glorious day of his vengeance. The forlorn lover he may be, but he is also thinking like a hero. Unfortunately, leaving Calypso means crossing the sea, and Poseidon comes back from his business trip just in time to see Odysseus making his way towards Scheria. He throws a terrible storm that crushes Odysseus' craft and leaves him naked with nothing on the shore of Scheria. Odysseus left Ithaca with a fleet of ships and many young nobles fighting alongside. During the war and his attempted return, Odysseus had steadily lost the glory that he possessed when he departed. All but his own ship is lost at sea. Eventually, the whole crew of that ship was also lost, and the plunder that Odysseus had collected from Troy sinks to the bottom of the sea. When he leaves Calypso's island, he has only the clothes on his back and the raft that he built for his journey home. And now Poseidon has stripped even these last remnants of glory from him. When he is thrown ashore on Scheria, he has literally been stripped naked. This is the furthest step of the humiliation, his descent into the form of a servant. Journeying through the unreal world of myths brings him no gain. Scheria is the threshold between the world of myths and the real world. Oh no, I lost it. When Zeus determines to send Odysseus to the Phaeacians, he mentions that they are close kin to the gods themselves, and it is later explained that when they have sacrifices, the gods join them as guests. Nausicaa gives us geography, assuring her friend that Odysseus cannot be an invader. She said that we live too far apart out in the surging sea, off at the world's end. No other mortals come to mingle with us. More threateningly, Antinous tells Odysseus that the Phaeacians once lived near the Cyclops. Their customs are also unusual. Though Nausicaa assures Odysseus that they will show him proper hospitality, Athena tells him, "The men here never suffer strangers gladly, have no love for hosting a man from foreign lands." Phaeacians, Nausicaa tells Odysseus, care nothing for bow or quiver, only for masts and oars and good trim ships themselves. We glory in our ships. Antinous concedes, "We're hardly world-class boxers or wrestlers, though we can race like the wind. We're champion sailors, too, and always dear to our hearts. The feast, the lyre and dance, and changes of fresh clothes, our warm baths and beds." As Howard Clark points out, if the Cyclops, whom we meet in the next section, are barbaric, the Phaeacians are over-civilized. They hardly seem to be part of the same age or world as the heroes of the Trojan War. There is no challenge, no difficulty, all is ease and feasting and warm, soft beds. For Odysseus to remain here would be, as much as accepting the offer of Calypso, a rejection of his heroic standing. The transitional character of the island is symbolized by the strange olive tree under which Odysseus sleeps. He set out for the woods, and not far from the water found a grove with a clearing all around. He crawled beneath two bushy olives sprung from the same root, one olive wild, the other well-bred stock. No such gusty winds could ever pierce them, nor could the sun's sharp rays invade their depths. Nor could a downpour drench them through and through, so dense they grew together, singly, side by side. As Michael Nagler has pointed out, trees, especially olive trees, are important in the imagery of the Odyssey. The mast of Odysseus' ship is made of a pine tree, and significantly called a histo, the same word as loom. Grasping a mast saves Odysseus from being swallowed by Charybdis, and the olive tree bed that stands at the center of Odysseus' house symbolizes his marriage and kingdom. Foreshadowing his return to his olive tree bed, Odysseus finds refuge and sleeps under an olive tree. The Phaeacian olive tree is half wild, half cultivated. To see the full significance of this, we should note that Odysseus' adventures in no man's land are equally adventures in an uncultivated, uncivilized region of the world. Pierre Vidal-Naquet explained that for Hesiod and Homer, agriculture, sacrifice, prohibition of incest, and cooking food are primary signs of civilized life. Throughout his adventures, Odysseus uses these to gauge the peoples he encounters. His repeated hopes to find bread eaters are usually disappointed. From this angle, he is not so much traveling through Neverland as he is visiting a series of barbaric tribes, something like a modern anthropologist. When he lands at Phaeacia, he finds himself under a tree that is half cultivated and half wild. He may not be home, where he will delight in the fields of grain, but at least he is not on the island of the Cyclops anymore either. Phaeacia stands on the border between the uncultivated and the cultivated. If Scheria is like Ogygia, then the former is no place for a hero. As Odysseus enters the palace of Antinous, he passes walls of bronze crowned with blue glaze that are set with golden doors set on silver doorposts. Guarding the doorways are dogs of gold and silver, forged by the god of fire with all his cunning craft, and in the hall golden boys. Guarding the doorways are dogs of gold and silver, forged by the god of fire with all his cunning craft, and in the hall golden boys hold torches to light the feast. Surrounding the palace are its orchard and gardens that are as luxurious as those around Calypso's cave. Like Hermes gazing at the wonders of Calypso's cave, Odysseus stands before the palace gazing at all this bounty, marveling at it all. Like Ogygia, Scheria tempts Odysseus with promises of a long, languid, but ultimately inglorious life. At Scheria, too, Odysseus is Calypso.
Nausicaa, princess of the Phaeacians, is among the temptations that Scheria presents. Allusions to marriage abound in these books. Athena appears to Nausicaa in a dream and urges her to go to the beach to wash her clothes in preparation for her wedding. Nausicaa is of marriageable age, as both Athena and later Odysseus notice, and she drops hints that Odysseus might be a suitable husband. When he has cleaned and anointed himself and Athena has lavish splendor over his head and shoulders, Nausicaa comments to her girlfriends, "Ah, if only a man like that were called my husband." Later, as she gives him instructions for entering the city without causing a stir, she imagines that the townspeople would speculate. Now who's that tall, handsome stranger Nausicaa has in tow? Where'd she light on him? Her husband-to-be? Just wait. King Antinous chases away his son, Laodamas, to make a place for Odysseus in a burnished chair. Clearly, Antinous hopes that Odysseus will permanently occupy the seat of sonship. Odysseus is seen entering several cities in the Odyssey. First, Helen tells the story of his disguised entry to Troy. In Book 7, he enters the city of the Phaeacians, where the story of his entry into Troy is sung. And in later books, he arrives at Ithaca and enters his own house. In every case, he comes in disguise, the man of twists and turns. The Phaeacians cannot help but recognize his nobility, apparent from his bearing when he first appears in the court. His conduct also marks him out as a hero. When challenged to enter the games, his anger flares and he protests that he is no stranger to sports. "I've held my place in the front ranks, I tell you." To prove the point, he throws a discus farther than any competitor and then taunts the Phaeacians. "Now go match that, you young pups." In the course of the taunt, he reveals that he is a veteran of the Trojan War.
"I'll take on all contenders gladly, test them head to head. I'm no disgrace in the world of games where men compete. Well, I know how to handle a fine polished bow. The first to hit my man in a mass of enemies, even with rows of comrades pressing near me, taking aim with our shafts to hit our target. Philocletus alone outshot me there at Troy." Though the Phaeacians know that they are in the presence of a hero, they do not know who he is. This is a pattern of delayed identification we have seen at work in various ways already. His identity, however, is revealed by a song. This is appropriate, since heroes live eternally in the songs of the bards. Following dinner, Antinous calls the bard to sing. Among his songs is one about the affair of Ares and Aphrodite, the god of war and the goddess of love. Aphrodite is married to the lame god of fire, Hephaestus, but lusts after Ares. They arrange to meet at Aphrodite's bed when they believe that Hephaestus will be gone. Hephaestus, however, has been warned of Aphrodite's betrayal, so he makes a web of chains that will drop on the lovers and hold them fast when they come to the bed. Unsuspecting, Ares and Aphrodite begin making love, and the charmed chains fall and catch them like flies in a spider web, while all the gods gather to taunt and laugh at the couple. Like many mythological stories, this is a revealing episode. It shows that the gods of the Greeks were neither noble nor moral in a Christian sense. Both Ares and Aphrodite were lustful and guilty of adultery, and the other gods, far from condemning, find delight in their predicament. In the Odyssey, however, this song strikingly parallels the situation of Odysseus, and of course of Agamemnon. Like Ares, the suitors lust after Penelope. Like Hephaestus, Odysseus wishes to prevent his wife from being taken from him. We know, though Odysseus does not, that Penelope, unlike Aphrodite, has remained faithful to her lamed, scarred, suffering husband. More than that, the song ends with Hephaestus triumphing. "Look how limping Hephaestus conquers war, the quickest of all the gods who rule Olympus," says one of the gods enjoying the spectacle. "The cripple wins by craft," says another. These are the heartening words for Odysseus, the man of craft and guile, for he hopes to catch the suitors in a web. At Odysseus' request, Demodocus, the poet, also sings a song of the Trojan horse. Odysseus' own finest hour, how Odysseus marched right up to Deiphobus' house like the god of war on attack, with die-hard Menelaus, and fought the grimmest fight he had ever braved, but he won through at last thanks to Athena's superhuman power. Hearing the song, Odysseus weeps. Antinous calls a halt to the singing and asks Odysseus point blank to identify himself.
The song and his reaction to it confirms that he is a hero of Troy. At the end of the epic, Odysseus will be revealed in rage and slaughter. In the luxurious palace of Antinous and the flickering lights of the evening feast, things are different. The son of Pain, whom we first saw weeping on the shores of Calypso's island, weeps again as he begins to recount his journey. Song and tears unveil the suffering hero.